This is Arcane Amplification Drone, or AAD as I'll call it, an unlockable prodigy from the Embers of Rage DLC. It lets you instant speed put down a drone, and when you damage it with a spell, it will ripple it as 130% arcane damage in radius 4. Unfortunately, this description is missing some very key information. I've read a lot of people speak highly of this prodigy, talking about the crazy damage, which made sense to me, but I never actually tried it myself. So as I am now playing an Arcane Archmage / Occult Technomancer, which is extremely cool and super fun, expect a video about that, I decided to take it as my first prodigy, partly for roleplay and partly because I thought it would be decent. It turns out it's not decent, it's not good, it's not great either. I think it might just be the best prodigy in the game, on the admittedly very few classes that can properly utilize it. The biggest lie from the description is that you don't actually damage the drone with your spells, as it always takes 0 damage. This sort of makes sense. It would suck if you could just one-shot your own prodigy. The thing is, it's also completely invulnerable to enemies, but they can still target it and attack it. And while the drone does not have taunt, it is instant speed, so it's not too hard to put it in front of enemies to aggro them. So now it's not only more than doubling your damage, it also becomes an incredible defensive prodigy. Even if the enemies aggro to you first, you can find a tight corridor to fully block their path with the drone, or even if you just put it in front of them, it makes melee enemies unable to gap close to you with rush type talents, and it protects you from all projectiles. Terrain generation is incredibly powerful in Tome, but usually it's either a wall, which blocks any sort of interaction, or it can be killed like Cultist of Entropy's Black Monolith. And sure, AAD only lasts for 3 turns, but with how much it gives you offensively, if you have any sort of speed increase that will let you cast 5 to 6 spells during it instead of just 3, it's more than enough time. And if you are Archmage, you have talents like Stonewall to hide in until it comes back off cooldown again, or you just cast Time Prison on it, and it will prolong its duration while it continues to work because it doesn't need to actually take damage. Second point, it doesn't ripple damage from all spells that hit it, but only some. Any damage over time effects won't work, whether they are on the floor or applied to the drone, but also talents like Ether Beam or Ether Breach, those talents you put down and then they hit over the next couple turns, but that damage doesn't get rippled for some reason. Also, the explosions from AAD will never hit you or damage you. Positioning of the drone is blocked by enemies, so you can't reliably place it behind them. AAD is affected by your arcane resistance penetration, so that's a little annoying to deal with. Although arcane resistance is not too common on enemies, you can have 2 drones out at the same time, which you can do for example with Time Prison, and you can reposition your drone even while it's time prisoned with talents like Phase Door. If you've played with AAD before, you probably already knew a lot of this, but I was shocked just how much better it is than I gave it credit for reasons which are not possible to know until you try it. So I'm trying to spread the word. I'll end with which classes I think could work with this prodigy. You obviously need spells, and ideally beams or a lot of low cooldown, huge area of effect spells, so that you can hit the enemy and the drone at the same time. So I think this eliminates Cultists of Entropy and Corruptor. Then you really want some speed increases, but this you can always solve just by playing Shalor. So I'd say obviously Archmage works, likely with any element, but especially with Arcane. A caster-focused Necromancer should be good. Maybe Paradox Mage. I am thinking of the physical talents, could be fun. Arcane Blade is mentioned a lot for AAD, but honestly I don't see it, because the positioning of the drone is already sometimes difficult to line up if you are ranged, so I can't imagine constantly trying to line it up in melee. And then I am imagining a Vermig with AAD. None of its normal talents will trigger it, of course, since they are mind powers, but you can unlock Scourge and Undead aspects, which are all spell talents. So they have zero synergy with the rest of the class, but I assume they would trigger the drone. Both of these categories start locked, so it would be absolutely miserable to start with, and probably also miserable after you get it going, but I think I want to try that at some point. And Anno Refill does have a beam and spells that seem like they would work well, but I don't have much experience with the class. So if you've always overlooked Arcane Amplification Drone like I did, I hope this convinced you to give it a shot. Thank you for watching.